I've sunk down into a very dark place.
All right, let's hear it, man.
All right. So, long story short, you may have heard about this, but basically, private equity firms are buying single-family homes across the country. And I want to read from an article here that came out last month, a month ago, by Liz Broomer Smith. This is on MSN Money, and it's titled, "Americans are competing with private equity firms for homes." It reads here, "Today's low interest rate environment makes borrowing money easy." And it's true too. Like, the borrowing cost, like the cost of money is extremely low, right? Okay. Anyway, but finding a home to purchase isn't as easy. The competitive market is making it exceedingly challenging to buy a home if you don't have a competitive advantage, which I think that means in a market economy, that just means more money, right? Because markets allocate resources to those who have the ability to pay the most for them, right? If you have a finite resource and you're going to pay, give it to the person with the highest bidder. Anyway, low inventory is pushing prices up, meaning Americans are battling affordability concerns, and real estate investors and private equity firms aren't making it any easier. In fact, 1 in 5 homes were sold to investors in 2020, a number that will likely increase as competition intensifies in 2021. I'm going to say that again. 20% of homes last year were bought by people that will not live in them. This shit is fucked up. It says here, investors are typically backed by cash, allowing them to bypass common challenges associated with the traditional sale, including financing approval, appraisal contingencies, and higher closing costs, and gain a competitive edge. So, meaning like, if I'm selling my home and a young family comes up to me and is like, "All right, I'd like to buy your home. We're in the process of, credit approval with the bank. That should take, maybe 2 weeks. Then we want to have it appraised to make sure that, Junior isn't going to get fucking lead poisoning or black mold poisoning, shit like that. And, we're going to work through a broker and, that's going to increase your cost and stuff like that." No. Versus a private equity firm that's like, "Here's the cash price. We'll close in 2 days. You want it or not?" And, the calculations makes it a lot simpler when that happens, right? It continues saying, "This means buyers are having to pay more while also waiving other contingencies simply to keep up." According to a recent Redfin report, which is like a industry fucking journal, 18% of home buyers using the service have waived appraisal contingency, meaning like, if there's black mold, we won't know about it because we're not going to get it appraised before we even get there. 13% have waived financing contingency. Again, this like speaks to the fucking private equity. 13% have waived inspection contingencies. Oh, that's what I was talking about, the inspection rather. And 34% are bidding above asking price. And despite these efforts, many are still getting beat out. Now Americans are facing the added challenge of bulk sales by large real estate investment firms. Fundrise, and this is where I just fucking went down to the dirt with this shit. Fundrise, a real estate crowdfunding platform. We'll return to that in a minute because I looked into this and it is fucking bleak.
All right.
Recently purchased 124 newly developed houses in a residential community subdivision in Houston for a total of $32 million. These homes didn't even have a chance to hit the market for traditional buyers. So again, what that means is all of those homes are only going to be rented, right? All of them are going to be rented out. Madison Realty Capital, a private equity firm specializing in real estate debt, just issued a $110 million loan for the development of 700 homes, 220 of which are supposed to be sold directly to private equity firms. So humans are not even going to be fucking involved in them. How does this impact the market? In 2019, real estate private equity firms raised $180 billion, and after a cautious 2020, investment firms have a lot of cash sitting idle. Low interest rates mean borrowing costs are down, like we were talking about before, but now the firms are facing inflationary pressures, meaning putting money to work is critical. So what that means is like, it doesn't cost much for them to raise the funds, right? If they want to borrow money from somebody else, the expectation for return is low compared to, other financial instruments because the interest rates are so low. But inflationary costs, which is what we're dealing with, like the cost of living index had the highest individual monthly increase in since the financial crisis. Not good. anyway, so it's important for them to be like, hey, they have to start putting their money to work and starting to get a return on investment, because otherwise they're going to be losing money in comparison to the, the cost of living increases. So anyway, I want to stop here, but I want to return to what that said, that Fundrise. So I looked up on what the fuck is Fundrise? So it turns out there's a lot of these companies. Fundrise is one of them. Yield Street is another. Realty Mogul is another one. And basically what they do is, what were we talking about with fucking Grant Cardone?
No, because I just looked up. Yeah, I just looked up Fundrise's website. It's exactly, yes, I was just thinking that. This is basically his whole shtick. So that's crowdsourcing. That's what it was. Yeah. Crowdsourcing real estate.
So basically, yeah. So
is this like the same kind of model? Like, it's like, I guess the pitch of Fundrise is to like ordinary people to like, hey, you want to make money in real estate, but you fucking peasant can't afford to, get a piece of real estate yourself. You can't buy the whole thing yourself. So, you pitch in with such and such many other people, and then you get a piece of the return. That's the whole thing.
Exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right. So they'll raise, $30 million, and they'll build a fucking, gentrification building in Austin or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And you get fucking, $6.32 every month because of your contribution to it or whatever.
Right.
That's what that's about. Yeah. Isn't that fucking crazy? Isn't that fucking crazy? I mean, and this is like the sick part about it too, is that boomers and all their infinite wisdom are like, we grew up being inculcated with the idea that, your home is your most important investment. But what they're really saying was, I bought a house for fucking pennies, comparatively in the 70s or 80s or something like that. And the United States government failed to guarantee affordable housing to people. Therefore, there's a housing shortage. And therefore, the place I live ended up turning into an investment. And I realized an enormous amount of return on that. So my net worth increased only because the government failed to create affordable housing. And basically, this is what they're fucking going for. This is what, if they want, what was that fucking guy that got ratioed to shit? Like a Bloomberg opinion, hang on, yes. Bully this man at all costs on Twitter. His name is Carl W. Smith, and he had a Bloomberg opinion piece. I don't remember if we talked about this. We had a Bloomberg opinion piece that was called "America Should Become a Nation of Renters." And the sublead here is, the very features that made houses an affordable and stable investment are coming to an end. And his take from that is like, so everybody should rent and make landlords rich. I'll just read, oh my God.
I'm looking for his Twitter account. Unless he's already blocked me.
No,
I can't seem to find him.
I got it. I'm gonna send it to you. And where are we here? Here he is. And his look at his pinned tweet, dude. Check out his pinned tweet.
Carl with a K.
Yeah. Sorry, Carl with a K. And I'm just reading his bio here. It says, Carl W. Smith is a Bloomberg opinion columnist. He was formerly vice president for federal policy at the Tax Foundation and an assistant professor of economics at the University of North Carolina. He's also a co-founder of the economics blog Modeled Behavior. Fuck you. So his pinned tweet here is #evergreen, and he's quote tweeting somebody, which was a guy reacting to this opinion column saying, once again, everyone is mad at Carl W. Smith for being right. And if you go to this guy's Evan Jenkins, if you go to his Twitter bio, it says neoliberal, YIMBY, ban cars. Fuck you. And just reading into this Bloomberg opinion piece here, it says, rising real estate prices are stoking fears that homeownership, long considered a core component of the American dream, is slipping out of reach for low and moderate income Americans. That may be so, but a nation of renters is not something to fear. In fact, it's the opposite. The numbers paint a stark picture. After peaking at 69% in 2004, the home ownership rate fell every year until 2016 at 64%. It's the lowest level since the Census Bureau started keeping track in 1984. Mm-hmm. What the fuck? And it continues here. He says, this process is painful, but it's not all bad. Slowly but surely, most Americans' single biggest asset, their home, is becoming more liquid, meaning it can be bought and sold, commoditized easier. Call it the liquefaction of the United States housing market. I will not, Carl. Even in the best markets, single-family homes have historically been an extremely illiquid asset. Appraisals have to be made on an individual basis, and mispriced homes can sit on the market for months waiting for potential buyer, only for that buyer's financing to fall through. This is exactly what we were talking about beforehand, which is like, if you're trying to sell your home, you don't want to wait for a fucking, a family to try to figure out how to, get financing and shit like that. So this, what he's saying is like, it is increasingly becoming a commoditized thing. And that's just fucking crazy. It shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't have to have commoditized housing like this. It's such a fucking shame that public housing is just like a dirty word in the United States.
Oh yeah, even like just the welfare state at all is just like any kind of government assistance of any kind is just a dirty word in the United States. And again, it's for the same reason like we were talking about earlier with this fucking like it's just this like mythology of individualism in the United States, right? Just like individual effort, individual accomplishment, right? This is like the same kind of thing that like we were saying earlier about like, well, if you just, work hard and I mean, you got to put in overtime, you got to work 80 hours a week if you really want to, if you really want to make it and get ahead. It's all about, your individual value as a person and the effort you put into it, right?
Yes.
Any kind of assistance or, any kind of anything that benefits society, writ large is fucking evil and communist.
Well, to that point, I'm going to contrast this to a country that has, at least some form of social democracy, which is Austria. And I'm going to reading this from Marketplace, which came out in early May.
By the way, if I may, real quick, I just Googled Fundrise Grant Cardone. And I've got I haven't gotten into it yet, but like one of the first hits here is Fundrise versus Cardone Capital, which is better?
Oh my fucking God. Jesus Christ.
But please continue.
Yeah, so it says here in Vienna, Austria, public housing is affordable and desirable. In the United States, public housing might bring to mind buildings in terrible disrepair, but in Austria, many consider public housing, known as social housing, affordable and desirable. Think rooftop swimming pools and saunas, on-site childcare, cafes, and tennis courts. In Vienna, nearly 3 out of every 5 residents live in social housing, and many say that's one reason the Austrian capital consistently ranks high in quality of life. So how does the city make this work? Not far from the center of Vienna, city employee Christian Skantel points out a complex of brick and concrete apartments, the biggest housing complex in the 3rd district of Vienna. The city owns these 6-story buildings which have lots of windows, greenery, and stone arches. They are courtyards surrounded by tall trees and lined with benches. As you can see, it's quite livable, I think, he said. Social housing is livable and it's available to the middle class. And this is the thing that blew my mind. You can earn up to twice the average salary in Vienna and still qualify. The city owns 1,800 apartment complexes. The people who live here include tech workers, retired grandmas, immigrants, and middle-class families. Skantel said that's on purpose. We have a social mix within our apartments, he said. Most residents, think about this, just like compare, like everybody that's listening, compare this in your mind to your household budget. Most residents pay no more than 25% of their income on rent. Imagine not paying more than 25% of your income on rent. I would imagine for a lot of people it's probably more like what, like 50?
Sure, easily, yeah.
Easily. And I like this guy. This guy. He's his name is Fortunitz. He said Fortunitz said he loves having his own apartment. He doesn't need roommates. With the rent subsidized, you can handle it if you want to, he said. Vienna's subsidized housing makes up 44% of the city's rental stock. So the point is, it doesn't have to be like this.
Right.
It just doesn't have to be like this. Public does not mean disrepair. Public doesn't mean bad. It just means, we suck at it, basically. It's funny too. I'm looking at like the picture that they have here in the thing, and it just shows the name of one of the buildings is Karl Marx. Buddy, it doesn't have to be like this. And contrast that too, dude. Did you see the fucking videos from New York City subway? From the New York City subway from the flash floods and shit?
No,
yesterday?
I didn't. I saw like a still image, but no, I haven't watched any videos or anything.
Fucking insane.
Yeah, where did it happen?
I mean, it happened in a lot of places, but it was predominantly in the Bronx.